What's up, boxing fans? This is TBE Boxing, back at you again. Today's topic, why is Jermell Charlo talking about fighting retired Floyd Mayweather? Why not call out Terence Crawford instead? Let's chop it up and see what it's all about.
Got the money for minutes, pretty bitch, gotta show me titties. This is the life that I chose, huh? On the block with the pole, huh? This is the life that I chose, huh? On the block with the pole, huh? That life you for riches, huh? That life you for riches, huh? Pretty bitch, show me titties, huh? And I got the glitzy run up on me, I'ma make you get it. I'ma make you get it.
Okay, boxing fans, let's talk some boxing. Okay, so I saw a video recently. Jermell Charlo was doing some venting, talking about, what's going on with his career, his personal life, talking about Floyd Mayweather. I'm not going to get into his personal life. I like to keep it boxing. So I'm going to talk about some boxing. So Jermell, which I think is a great fighter, okay? I think Jermell is a great fighter. I've been watching him for quite a while. Okay. Personally, I thought he was a greater boxer or a better boxer when he was with Ronnie Shields than he is now. I think maybe now he's probably a better fighter per se, as opposed to a boxer. He used to box more than he's doing now. Now he's probably a better, maybe a stronger fighter. Okay. But I like the way he used to fight when he was under Ronnie Shields. Okay, he did more boxing, more moving, more side to side. Okay, than he does now. But I mean, at the end of the day, he knows what he's doing, so he made his decision to go to Derek James. But now, so he's talking about fighting, Mayweather. Okay. And my thing with that is, why talk about fighting Mayweather? Mayweather is retired. Okay, so what are we talking about that fight for? That fight is not going to happen. Okay, you have I understand from his point of view. He's like he has 3 belts, and nobody's really talking about Jermell Charlo. Okay, everybody's talking about his brother. They're talking about Errol Spence. They're talking about Crawford. They're talking about Thurman. They're talking about Porter. But you don't hear a lot of people talk about Jermell Charlo at all. Okay? He's like invisible, and he's the guy that has accomplished the most in terms of, having belts, even more than Errol Spence. Errol Spence has 2 belts. Jermell Charlo has 3. Okay? But he's not getting the same kind of notoriety that guys are getting even at the lower weights, like, lightweight and junior welterweight and, all these guys, Teofimo, Javante, all the guys down there lightweight, even do nothing, even that do nothing guy down there at 126 pounds, Gary Russell Jr. is getting more publicity than Jermell Charlo. So I can understand, how he's feeling. I feel it, what I mean? Because for a guy that has accomplished so much, to be almost, the undisputed at 154 pounds, where you got killers up there, okay, and he is now the 3-belt unified champion, WBA, WBC, and IBF, and then nobody's talking about him. I mean, I don't get it, but I feel what he's saying. He should be getting a lot more publicity and more notoriety than he's getting now. But at the end of the day, he got 3 belts. I mean, he didn't fight 3 people to get the belt. He took the belt from that kid that took it from Julian, J-Rock, and it came with 2 belts. Okay, so he had 2 belts. Plus the one he had that he took back, that he had lost, the WBC belt. So he got the 3 belts, okay? So it's not like there was 3, great fights for him to get that belt, okay? But so, that's probably why he's not getting as much publicity. But it's still, an accomplishment. He does have 3 belts, and he does deserve the respect of a guy with 3 belts, because that's what he has, okay? Now, I don't think him talking about, Mayweather is going to really help him, get any notoriety for him, so I would think that, if he really wants to get some notoriety and he really wants to be the talk of boxing, he got to he got to talk about people that he likes to fight. I mean, I don't hear him calling out Teixeira. I mean, I don't know what's going on with that. But, we know that Teixeira is fighting February 13th against Castano. So let's see what happens after that fight. If he's going to call out the winner of that fight and and collect the other belt, become undisputed. Or he's just satisfied with, the 3 belts. Because, usually when I hear Derrick James talking about belts, he's always talking about the 3 belts. The WBA, WBC, and the IBF. He never talks about the WBO belt. He said the same thing about, Spence getting the 3 belts, not the 4 belts. So I don't know. Maybe, a lot of these guys think they can just collect 3 belts like Teofimo did and want to call themselves, undisputed. But you got to get that belt, the 4 belts, the WBO belt to become undisputed. And you can also go and get the IBO belt as well. There's an IBO champion out there. Go get it. You know what I mean? I mean, it's another bet you can collect, So, but at the end of the day, I would think that if, Jermell Charlo wants to be in the talk, he should call out Crawford. Well, your buddy, his buddy Errol Spence is ducking Crawford. So what better way for Jermell Charlo to steal the thunder, than to call out, Terence Crawford. That would be a great call out. Call him out. I don't think you'd have to call out Terence Crawford too many times for Terence Crawford to accept the call out. I don't think Terence Crawford is like Errol Spence. He's not going to duck. I think if Jermell Charlo called him out and was serious about the call out and willing to pay, and they're willing to send him a contract, I think he would take the fight. I don't think he had no problem. I don't think he'd have any problem whatsoever moving up to junior middleweight and fighting Jermell Charlo, and that would be a great fight, actually. Now, and definitely they would definitely get a lot of publicity, because as we see, that's all people talk about is Errol Spence and Terence Crawford, and we know that Errol Spence don't want that fight, but yet still Errol Spence, is here he is, Errol Spence is ducking and been ducking Terence Crawford for 3 years. And he's getting more publicity than a guy like Jermell Charlo, who has 3 belts, and didn't duck anybody. So, I mean, if I was Jermell Charlo, I would call out. I mean, we even have Errol Spence calling out Canelo. Well, no, let me take that back. He never called out Canelo. He just mentioned Canelo's name. Canelo's name. He's clout chasing Canelo to avoid fighting Terence Crawford. But, be that as it may, just the very idea of it, when you know that Jermell Charlo wants to fight Canelo, and even Jermell Charlo wouldn't mind fighting Canelo, okay? But you have Errol Spence down there 147 talking about he want to fight Canelo, when really he's just doing it because he don't want to fight Crawford. So if I was Jermell Charlo, I would call out Crawford, okay? Calling out Canelo is not going to help because Canelo is not going to come down to 154 pounds, okay? And he might not even come down to 160 pounds. I don't think he'd even fight. And then, you got your brother up there looking for that fight. Jermell is looking for that fight. So, that's not a fight that, that you should be calling out because your brother wants that fight, okay? And, he's at middleweight and you're at junior middleweight. So, and you're not going to fight Errol Spence, Jermell. Jermell Charlo is not going to fight Errol Spence. Okay? So the only guy really left out there for him to, to really call out is actually Terence Crawford. So why not just call out Terence Crawford and get over with? Okay? That's the most logical, fight for him right now. Okay? Besides the winner of the Castano Teixeira fight, and we don't know what's going to happen with that or if he's going to actually, if they'll actually take that fight. But one thing I do know, the fact that, Errol Spence is ducking Terence Crawford, and if Jermell was to call out Terence Crawford while Errol Spence is ducking him, that would be a great thing thing to talk about in boxing. That, a lot of people would be talking about that. That would generate a great conversation out there in boxing right now. You know what I mean? And that would put Jermell Charlo on the map, really. Okay, everybody be talking about it. Okay, so I would think that that's the move that Jermell needs to make. Call out Terence Crawford and see what happens with that. I mean, take that fight. I mean, now I don't know if Jermell Charlo really wants any smoke with Crawford. Okay, I don't know, because I remember a couple of years ago, they had a little, altercation, and Terence Crawford had said that, "Don't make me have to come up and show you who the real lion is, cause the lion ain't no killer, is not no king of the jungle." You know what I mean? And I didn't hear too much back from Jermell Charlo after that. So who knows? Maybe Jermell don't want any smoke with Terence Crawford, just like Errol Spence don't want any smoke with Terence Crawford. We don't know. But I'm not saying that. I'm not going to say that's what the case is. Maybe he just haven't thought about it. But he should. I'm not saying that Jermell is afraid of Terence Crawford. I don't have no reason to believe that, because Terence Crawford never called him out. Okay, he just said, "Don't make me come up there and show you who the real lion is. Who's the real king of the jungle." Okay, so it doesn't sound like Terence Crawford, is afraid of Jermell Charlo either. Okay, and so maybe Jermell Charlo is not afraid of Terence Crawford either. So that would be a good fight. You know what I mean? Those guys could fight, I would think. And that would generate a lot of good boxing conversation for Jermell Charlo, because at the end of the day, we could chase the Errol Spence fight all we want to, but it doesn't look like that fight is going to happen between Terence Crawford and Errol Spence, because Errol Spence don't really want that fight. And we have seen that now for 3 years in a row, straight, continuously ducking the fight, making up all kind of excuses, you know what I mean? And so that fight is not going to happen. So I would think that Jermell Charlo, because the fact that he's sitting there with 3 belts and not getting any notice, not getting any shine, okay, nobody's talking about him, a good conversation starter would be, him talking about fighting Terence Crawford, because his buddy, his stablemate Errol Spence, is ducking Crawford. And so that would generate a lot of talk out there in the boxing world and a lot of interest, okay? That would be a pretty interesting turn of events, and that would be an interesting fight if they were to make that fight happen. And like I said, I think if Jermell was to call out Crawford, I don't think Crawford would say no. I think Crawford would take the fight. Crawford is that kind of a guy, you know what I mean? So, it would be a tough to say who would win in a fight like that. Jermell is the much bigger guy than Crawford, okay? Definitely bigger guy, without a doubt, because Jermell is bigger than Spence, and Spence is a little bigger than Crawford. So, Crawford would be at a huge disadvantage in that fight. He'd have to pull out everything he has in his arsenal to be able to beat a guy like Jermell Charlo, because Jermell Charlo is no slouch. Jermell Charlo is like I said, I used to watch him fight when he was at Ronnie Shields, and he was to me he was better back then in terms of his style. I like that style, but maybe that style didn't work for him. I don't know, but he seems to be generating more power now in the Derrick James style, but he definitely have the tools and the skills, and he's a naturally bigger guy than Crawford. So if we was just go by the paper, Jermell Charlo should beat Crawford. The bigger guy, stronger probably, good boxer when he has to box. Okay, although he had some problems, previously in the fight with Harrison, Harrison out boxing the first fight. So, but he got skills. Definitely got skills. There's no doubt about that. Jermell Charlo has skills, and he has power, and he got a pretty good chin on top of it. So him and Crawford will be a tough fight, and by all measurements, he should be able to stop Crawford if Crawford was to move and fight him, because he's the bigger guy, the stronger guy. He can punch. Okay, he can box. Okay, good movement when he has to move. So, he has all the advantages in a fight against Crawford. you know, if we was to just go, strictly by looking at the paper. So, now what would, if Crawford was, I mean, to ask Crawford to take that fight is a big ask, I would think, because of there's so much, the size difference. But hey, at the end of the day, what's next for Crawford, at welterweight? I mean, Spence is not going to fight him. Even if Spence win the fight with Ugas, if Spence take that fight with Ugas and win, he still won't fight Crawford. Okay, I don't see that fight happening. I don't see, Spence don't want that smoke. So Crawford is going to have to do, either stay there and fight is mandatory, or he's going to have to move up to 154 pounds. Okay, and if Crawford was to move up to 154 pounds and fight Jermell Charlo and win, which is a big ask. I mean, there's no guarantee he'll ever beat Jermell Charlo. I mean, like, that's a very difficult fight for him, I would think. But if just say that was to happen, he was to win, then he'd be like, he'd get 3 belts all at once, and then he can fight for undisputed against, whoever the winner of the Castano Teixeira fight is. And that would be a great for his legacy. Okay, but then again, Jermell Charlo could chop him down as well, but we don't know. So, but again, like I said, that would be his next logical step for Crawford, is to move to 154 pounds and fight up there, because he's not going to get any more fights down at 147, because now those guys down there really want to fight him. I mean, unless he's going to stick around and hang around and wait for the younger guys to come up. Okay, like the Virgil Ortizes and the Inneses and all those type of guys. But why stick around and wait for those guys when you got legacy up at 154 pounds? Okay, undisputed at 154 pounds is within reach. It's 2 fights away. For Crawford, that's 2 fights to become undisputed at 154 pounds. So, instead of waiting around for Spence, I would just move up and get a fight with Jermell Charlo if I could, and then fight the winner of the Castano Teixeira fight, and just keep it moving. Errol Spence would probably meet him up there. Okay, at the end of the day, But then again, if he didn't want to fight him at 147, I don't see why Errol Spence would want to fight him at 154. So, it's just what it is. Errol Spence don't want no smoke with Terence Crawford. And that's why if Jermell Charlo was to call out Terence Crawford, that would be a very intriguing situation. Yeah, that would really be a conversation starter, I would think. Yeah, that would be a great thing to see if that was to happen. Errol Spence ducking Crawford, Jermell Charlo calls out Crawford, Crawford accepts the call out, goes up and fight Jermell Charlo at 154 pounds. That would be something to see. I would love to see something like that, that turn of events. Because at the end of the day, we could talk about Mayweather all we want to, but Mayweather is not going to fight Jermell Charlo, the young lion. I mean, Mayweather is retired. He's doing okay fighting those guys out there. He's exhibition fights, and he's making big money with easy fights. So why would he want to come back, to go and fight Jermell Charlo at 154 pounds? Doesn't make any sense, especially not even from a business point of view, because he's making more money doing what he's doing. He's not going to make as much money. Well, he would in boxing, because he's that type of a name. But at the end of the day, I don't see Mayweather come back to fight Jermell Charlo. I think a fight with Crawford is more realistic than a fight with Mayweather for Jermell Charlo. That's what I would think. So yeah, that would be a very interesting fight. So let's see what happened. I mean, that would be pretty interesting. I would love to see that, for Crawford, if he can't get the Errol Spence fight eventually, which I don't think he's going to get it, But I guess we'll have to wait and see what happened between Errol Spence and Ugas, if that fight is to happen, or if actually Ugas end up fighting Crawford instead of Spence. And that could happen as well. So, there's still some movements that Crawford could still make it 147, depending on what happened between Ugas and Spence or Ugas and Crawford. Okay. So, there's certain things, but I think Crawford is the kind of guy who wants to clean out 147 before he moves up. I think he would have moved up already if he had an opportunity to clean out 147 pounds. But, they're trying to deny him that. First it was Manny Pacquiao, and now it's Errol Spence. But now that Manny Pacquiao's out of the picture, you know, maybe Ugas might fight Spence. You know, even though we're seeing that, you know, the talk is about, you know, Ugas fighting, you know, Errol Spence as opposed to Ugas fighting Crawford. You know, that's more of the talk. But you know, who knows what could happen? You know, maybe that fight with Crawford and Ugas might happen before the fight with, you know, Ugas and Spence. You know, it's possible. You know, but not likely, but it's possible. So we'll see how that shapes out. So Crawford still got a few things at 147 to deal with. You know, for the foreseeable future. You know, for the near future. But you know, towards the end of this year, I would be looking at moving up to 154 pounds if nothing is shaking out at 147. You know, because like I said, I don't think Spence is going to fight Crawford under any circumstances. I think he's going to duck that fight. And even if he was to win the belt from Ugas, he would just collect the 3 belts, claim that he's undisputed because he had the 3 belts, just like Teofimo is doing, and he would be satisfied with that and would never fight Crawford. Okay, so I think again, Jermell Charlo should just call out Crawford and see if they could make a fight. Okay, I think, you know, if I was Crawford, I would, you know, instead of waiting around for Spence, I would take that fight with Jermell Charlo and get the 3 belts. You know, unless I'm gonna get a fight with Ugas for the you know, WBA belt, and that would take precedence over moving up. I would just fight Ugas to get that belt, and then try to make the fight with Spence. And if Spence didn't want to make the fight, I would just move up and fight Jermell Charlo at 154 pounds, and then go ahead and try to unify 154 pounds while Spence, you know, stay down there, you know, ducking. You know what I mean? I'll see how it plays out. So yeah, it's, you know, I would be interested in seeing that, you know, Jermell Charlo, instead of talking about fighting, you know, Mayweather and, you know, all of that, you know, and there's really nothing else for you up there 154 pounds besides the winner of the Castano fight, the undisputed, and we don't know if that's going to happen anytime soon. So, you know, if you really want to get your name out there and you really want to, you know, create some, you know, some smoke, then I think a fight with Crawford or a call out of Crawford would be a good thing for Jermell Charlo. You know, I'm pretty sure, you know, Crawford would respond. So yeah, let's see what happens with that. You know, if that's a option for Jermell. Okay, I'm going to leave it there. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Okay, get all the latest boxing commentary. This is TBE Boxing. That's all I have. I'm out.